I was towards the end of my drinking, I just felt hopeless, like just totally and utterly hopeless and pathetic.
What happens to you long term when you're on a path where you're destined for greatness before you even hit puberty? Todd Ley was the #1 junior tennis player in the world, and by 17 it all fell apart. In this conversation we unpack the brutal pressure of elite sport and how chasing greatness as a kid left Todd battling addiction, identity loss, and complete and total burnout as an adult. Welcome to Move Your Mind, where we uncover why you are holding yourself back from getting the life you want and what to do about it. With the help from high-achieving guests and experts in behavioural science, personal development, and the health and wellness space. Join us if you're ready to move out of your own way toward your ideal self. I'm your host, nickbracks, and I've been working in the health and wellness space for the last 15 years, helping people find direction and gain the courage to take control of their life. My mission is simple: to help you learn everything that I wish I knew, so you can become your ideal self. Lacking guidance, I spent the majority of my youth feeling lost and disempowered, which led to depression, anxiety, low self-esteem, and substance abuse. Looking back, I didn't have the vocabulary to communicate what I was experiencing. And as a man, I didn't resonate with the emotional language used in traditional therapy. I didn't need to talk about my feelings. I needed tangible solutions to guide me toward building a life I was proud of. If you can relate, then this podcast is for you. In this episode, we discuss the early impact of pressure on kids. If you're ready to take action and build a stronger mindset, then keep listening. Todd, thank you so much for coming on my podcast, mate.
Thanks very much for having me. Appreciate it.
Yeah, same here, mate. So I'm just going to jump straight in, just so our listeners can learn a bit more about you and your background. Can you give a background on yourself and how you came to be where you are now?
I was the youngest ever athlete signed by IMG at age 11 for the sport of tennis. Ever since I can remember, that's what I was doing. I became #1 in the world as a junior at 12 years old. And from that, basically the offshoots of that were endless. Came opportunity, management companies, sponsorships, attention, expectation, and everything that basically comes with that. So just basically being a child prodigy and living in a very tennis bubble. And I was shipped around the world and flown around the world to basically just perform a hobby. And I lived in IMG in Florida at one of the biggest sporting compounds that basically just pumped out professional athlete, not even professional athlete. These people were like more like that. They were gods, basically, like demigods. Agassi, Sampras, Kornikova, Korea, the Williams sisters, and this place was just a powerhouse for stars, essentially. And that's where I lived for the better part of 6 years, from about 12 to 17. And yeah, very abruptly, my tennis career came to a cataclysmic ending. And then I spent the better part of the next 14 years basically, it went from, trying to become this #1 tennis player in the world to basically trying to figure out how to get a roof over my head. The life just completely changed and turned. And it went from basically one extreme environment to another. And I've spent, the better 14 and a half years as an alcoholic, basically. And over the past 5 years, I've been able to get myself some sobriety. And my life again has miraculously, mysteriously sort of changed in a complete different direction, which is just this kind of weird in a normal type of way.
Yeah. Well, I mean, so many things I want to explore with that. And and I can relate in a small way, not that I had anything to that level of a sporting career, but like growing up, my only goal was to become a professional athlete, and competed at a fairly high level and got injured at 17, 18, and went off the rails after I finished school, because it was my whole psychology built around that. So I can only imagine from your experience, being this #1 child prodigy, like you're saying, have like you don't know any different. You're getting drummed into you that you're you're special and you're on this trajectory and then to have that taken away, I can only imagine the psychological like damage or the fallout that would come from that, and how you try to reconcile that and turning to alcohol makes sense. But yeah, fucking hell, mate, it's so good to hear that you've come through that and now you're on the other side and you're finding a new path. But yeah, really really tricky thing, and I think we need people like you talking about this kind of thing, because you even see it with athletes who have reached the top of their sport. Michael Phelps became suicidal after becoming the most decorated Olympian in history. So it's like, even if you have that success after that, it's like, okay, but what do I do now? It's not even, there's so many levels.
Yeah, I mean, also my time is basically not just myself playing the sport, but also being involved with athletes at the higher end of it. I was involved with sort of, some professional athletes who are touring off, and you'd be amazed how many of them are miserable.
Wow.
You'd be just absolutely amazed, because this sport is basically, and not just the sport, things in general. You can face that dangling carrot, and it can leave you basically terminally dissatisfied, because there's just you get there and then it's just a never-ending dangling carrot, really. And with the turnaround of sport being so quick and you've got to go up again, and it's like, the joy that they initially felt as juniors just turns into relief. And it's a sport where people are basically always anxious, and they're playing for doses of pleasure to be able to mask this deep-seated miserableness and this dissatisfaction that they've found within this thing that they've basically pursued since they were kids. So it's not just like, it's amazing to actually see, because I just didn't expect to see that. But yeah, it's amazing what you come to find.
It's crazy when you peel behind the layers of anything in life, and it's never what it seems. And we live in a world now where we're presented with everything through a lens of social media, and we're constantly looking at what other people are doing, not seeing what's actually going on. So it's so interesting to hear that. And I guess it sounds to me like it would be you're getting conditioned to almost be addicted to this dopamine hit of going and having that moment of competing and winning and the adrenaline, and then it's like chasing that probably forever the more you do it. I remember hearing Navratilova. Yeah. I was listening to an interview. I think it was Navratilova. She was saying something about tennis is a legal drug, and how she was talking about when she finished and how all these players, and I think she was talking about like the big three with Djokovic and Nadal, Federer, and a lot of these players, how they just keep going, still like their 40s almost, because it's so addictive, this high you can't replace.
Well, that's interesting she said that, because when I was at IMG, like I was saying, the sporting compound for sporting extremists, essentially, I actually trained with Navratilova.
Oh, wow.
When she was, I don't know, she must have been like 40 or 50 at the time. And she was at the net, and I went right at her. I went right at her on a short ball, and nearly basically tagged her square just below the ribs. And she tossed me straight off the court. She said, "That's enough. Get rid of him." And she just grabbed another one on. So that was my experience, my short experience with Navratilova. But like, it's almost, I was thinking as you're saying that, it's almost like glorified being dissatisfied, though. Like, wanting more is good, and not being satisfied is kind of like it's being seen as a good thing. So like that's a dangerous one to kind of swing around, I think. Like, I think there's a few things that get tossed around within the sporting sphere which is really unhealthy. Just because it's kind of seen as sport, it's looked at as it's a healthy thing, it's a good thing. But like you're saying, it's basically like a drug. So, if you're not constantly chasing a drug, well, that's not healthy, So I don't know, each to their own. But I mean, me personally, I wouldn't mind being able to go through, what I'm doing and not feeling like I'm constantly in a state of lack. And contentment is something still that evades me in my day-to-day life. Like, I never really feel whole or complete. I'm always searching for things, and something that I think, people basically leave this endeavor to then find themselves just on that eternal conveyor belt where they're just constantly looking for the next thing to be able to feel satiated from that deficiency.
Yeah, and like you're saying there, you can't you can't satisfy it, and you could reach. I mean, look at someone like Trump, who, it's like
That's right.
he's president. It's like, what's he going to do next? He can't that
Yeah,
thing
yeah,
that
yeah.
he's looking until the day he dies. He'll be looking for the next thing. It's
That's
like you
right.
need. So
Yeah, yeah.
yeah, it's crazy because the actual
Yeah,
experience of what it would probably feel like would be unpleasant because you're
that's
never
right.
at peace. You're just always, like we're saying, chasing a drug. And again, like
Yeah.
I find it alarming because I had that small experience with sport, and to this day, that psychology I built through my whole developmental years still stays with me now, where I'm constantly having to remind myself, no, it's not about just trying to get to this destination, and how do I find a way to be more present, and just, and it's so hard because I think that psychology, exactly like you're talking about, sport teaches us this psychology about trying to win all the time and get to the next thing and get to the next thing. And you bring that into day-to-day life and it just does not equal peace or happiness.
Yeah, when you find out how to get rid of that stuff, make sure you got my number. Let me know how you get rid of it, that conditioning. Because
Yeah.
what do I do with this? I'm now this sporting extremist that just gets dropped back into this normal world. And I don't know if you've ever seen the Osbournes, but Ozzy Osbourne, when he's just like pottering around the house and he doesn't really know what to do with himself, like me even trying to get these lights on in my house, I kind of feel like I'm that version of Ozzy Osbourne, where I'm just sort of like looking around, don't really know how to reassemble back into normal society, because I'm conditioned with full on
Mm-hmm.
extremities. That's just what I have. So I only know how to take things too far, and I don't really have a normal bone in my body. So it's interesting. It's been a very, like I'm saying, I was very suited to an alcoholic world, because that's just very much more another extreme thing where you're able to really just brutalize yourself and
Exactly.
carry on in
Yeah.
that manner. Like for me, that was just I took to that like a duck to water. But being dropped
Mm.
back into a normal world with other people that have jobs, dogs, like they sit down for meals at certain times. Like that is just the most fucking foreign thing to me. And they're sort of like nice to each other. I just have not come from this world. So for me, this has been like normal life is like the biggest drug of all for me. It's like, whoa, like that's full on, just because it just has not been my reality. And adjusting back into something that's sort of mellow paced, mediocre, and sort of mundane is almost, it's been painful.
It can feel like agony. Exactly.
Painful.
It can feel just like
Absolutely.
you're in a prison
Yeah,
cell is what
that's
it
right.
probably feels like. It's like, get me out
Yeah,
of this. Like, what the hell? You feel like your skin's crawling, something's not right. And yeah, it's so
yeah,
interesting. Like, again, just looking back on my own experience, that was as soon as the sporting side was not a possibility anymore to make it to a professional level. I'd never touched alcohol, turned 18, it fell apart, started alcohol, and I developed a drinking problem for 7, 8 years. Probably shouldn't be alive.
mm,
Like it was that
mm,
exact thing you're describing there, of just another way to, how do I punish myself? How do I take this further than anyone else? Um, because I guess that's the thing. Your brain's trying to develop at such a young age, and you're conditioning it with, while your brain's forming, you're conditioning it with all of these things that aren't conducive to being able to cope in the real world. So how did it come to an end? Like you were saying, this child prodigy, it came to an abrupt end. What happened?
Oh, my tennis.
Yeah.
I had it's like the best way I can describe it is like imagine. I think imagine just being almost feeling like you're interrogated for like 24/7
Mm.
for about 14 years. The weight of being watched and being surveilled and being coached in the most minor incidents, minor situations, like how you sit or how you're walking or shoelace, like just constant overload of coaching, then really no support whatsoever. Like just everything is focused. It's like basically I had an incredible amount of attention, but it was like no one could actually see me. It was like I was invisible as a person. Like I felt like a ghost. Sometimes I'd basically like put my finger through my stomach to see if I was actually real. Like it was just a lot of out of body disassociation type living, and it was really wild to be able to go back through my life. Basically, a lot of it for me has just been a blur. It was sort of survival. It's not survival. It's just basically, as I got older, it was like this surge in my soul was basically starting to bubble. It was basically coming up from the solar plexus of my stomach. Because I was basically voiceless as a kid. I just basically took it and ate it. I never even, I was just this people-pleasing sporting freak, basically, who just danced when I was told it's time to dance. And it never crossed my mind to do anything else, to say anything like that. I just thought kids just basically took it and ate it. That's what you do. And, the thought of even possibly contemplating saying something about the way that I was feeling. One, I didn't have the vocabulary, and two, the response that I thought I would have gotten would have been terrifying enough to never even think of it again. So I had a really, again, I've had more unfortunate. It was like this wasn't like one unfortunate incident. It was like just a lifelong event of just a complete shambles. And I had an incident that happened. I was in the south of America playing a future, and I lost a tight match. I came off after the match and was fronted by my father in a pretty, unsavory way in front of a whole bunch of people, which was humiliating, which was sort of nothing really new to me. I've written about it in the book where, it was just a really, really ugly, unfortunate incident. And it was one of these like sliding doors moment where I was about to jump in this van to go back in the courtesy car to go back to our hotel. And something just inside of me said, do not get in that car. I don't know why I listened to it. And I didn't get in the car. I ran off and I just walked around the streets of Joplin for about 13 hours in this like ridiculous storm. It was like a power outage in the city. It was really weird, sort of eerie as well. And I just knew there was something in me going, that's it, you're done. And that was news to me because I'd never really even contemplated that thought. It was sporadic. It was, all of a sudden it appeared. It was like, no, you're done. That's it. That's enough. And then, that was how it initially came to me. And then actually getting myself story, because just saying that wasn't going to be accepted as a so I had to basically fake an injury, because an injury would be queried but would be accepted eventually. So I went home. We went home as an American at the time. I was faking this injury, so I had to then go and get this injury looked at from doctors and physiotherapists and this sort of stuff. And I got home to sort of validate what I was a legitimate injury. So I was hobbling around all over the place, like trying to sell this injury. Right? And then weirdly enough, the fake injury actually started hurting. Because I was like, this thing's actually killing me. Like, now I had to go get like a second opinion on this fake injury that all of a sudden started hurting, because I didn't want to go back to the same doctor and be like I was just caught in this ridiculous lie, like just to be able to get myself out of it. And so I'm basically because now I'm hobbling around everywhere. Like I was just doing it for show purposes only at the start. And now I'm actually like it's actually fucking hurting. And so I'm going to get this other thing checked out and all this sort of stuff. And meanwhile, the real reason of why, I'm doing all this is remain untreated and basically found solace in alcohol. And once that happened, I went from being voiceless to having the biggest fucking voice in the room. And no one could shut me up. And everything just basically came out. And so drinking, in a way, it helped me put things to bed. It gave me a voice, and I just took that at every opportunity that I could, because it felt like I don't know what it's like to get out of prison, but it felt like I'd been let out of jail when I drank. And it was like fuck, this is freedom, man.
Mm, mm.
And I wanted as much freedom as I possibly could. So I just went about destroying myself. And I really took great satisfaction in destroying this manufactured identity that these people had created for me. It was a cathartic release. And
Well,
yeah, it was sort of a very wild ride initially, and then it it goes where it goes, kind of thing. But yeah,
well,
that's sort of that. Yeah.
how old were you at the time when, you were faking this injury, that process of getting out of tennis?
I was 17 years old, so I played the Australian Open. I got a wild card in the Australian Open of the men's qualifying at 16. I was doing really bad for a long period of time. I've written about sort of stuff in the book about sort of situations, circumstances that I was under. I had a very good January. I got given a wild card to play the Australian Open at 16, and then
Wow.
after that, I went back to America, went through this Europe playing just a fucking shocking, terrible stuff. Yeah, later that year, it was basically all over. So even though it was going well, it was always on the verge of being like, I was just always walking this tightrope,
Mm.
Just a stiff breeze was enough, not even a stiff breeze, what happened.
Mm.
It didn't matter. Something was just going to basically make this thing just completely lost.
Yeah, 100%. And you're saying when you look behind the scenes at a lot of these players, it's not what it seems. Would you say, like, if we look at someone like Kyrgios, that's a similar symptom of, what you went through? I mean, he stayed in it on and off, but he seems like he's talked vocally about, having a pretty bad relationship with the sport. He's had mental health issues, and he's sort of, I think, probably misunderstood in the public, or I don't know. But is that another example probably of the outcome of what you have to go through in this sport?
Yeah, absolutely. I think, again, what I'm talking to there, I think it happens, not I think, I know it happens at different levels. So some is more extreme, some is a little bit more PG. Depends on where you fall, like who you've got around you. And again, a big thing comes down to this is what I wrote about really in the book, because at that time we had Thanasi Kokkinakis, who I've personally coached. I've had a lot to do with through his career. There was sort of Nick Kyrgios, and there was Bernard Tomic that was very big in the media, and everyone sort of had an opinion on these so-called tennis brats, whether they were tennis brats, whether they were entitled wankers, or sort of just like, unfortunate incidents. Like, so everyone sort of had an opinion on these people, and I felt like I could really speak to that. One, being around them, and two, me sort of having skin in the game from my own, demise. And it always amazed me how people weren't really interested about where that sort of behaviour was coming from. They're happy to deem and ridicule and judge and scrutinise people's behaviour, and especially in Australia, like that tall poppy syndrome. That's a real thing. Like, we love tearing down people, having a go at the person having a go. That's not as prevalent as it is in the States, but in Australia, it's one of our culture's favourite pastimes. Is just fucking tearing people down. And if you sort of understood a little bit more about where these people have come from, what their life experiences have been, you'd be shocked. You'd be shocked, because I've related it to in the book. Like, for me, and I know for a lot of other players, I can't speak about other players, but I know, I don't want to speak for anyone. But for me, like, I was a sporting child sweatshop worker. That's the best way that you could describe my existence. So then, you think someone's going to come out of those types of conditions, and just because they get a little bit of money or notoriety or fame or whatever, and they're just going to be these well-adjusted people that are going to fit back into society and be these, type of Australian of the Year type winners like that. That's just trying for someone to, like I was saying before with me trying to fit back into society, like trying for someone to fit back into that box is like, that's a recipe for disaster. Like, these guys are extremists. They've been under extreme conditions for a long time. So to expect that type of behavior is abnormal.
Yeah.
It's just not, it's not on the cards. There's going to be some wear and tear on people who have been through certain types of conditions.
Absolutely. And it does. It shows a lack of understanding. I mean, the tall poppy thing in Australia, like you're saying, it really is. After living over in the States, when I come back, I'm like always shocked at how much more like you sort of notice it so much more when you're removed from it for a while. And it really is.
Yeah.
It's just embedded in our psyche in Australia. It's bizarre, but it's a real thing, and it is pretty fucked up that, you know, we're willing to just write people off and have these opinions without understanding a thing, and you know, not really thinking about what is the aftermath for this person. And, you know, it's much more complicated, I think, than we make it out to be. So yeah, it's not good. You're looking to make a change, to lose weight, to get toned, to gain self-confidence, all in just 24 minutes a day, then go no further. You can check out the Move Your Mind community by going to nickbracks.start.page.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Well, and you're saying, you know, like on all levels, you've seen that when you peel behind the curtain, like players that are, you know, at the top, even you think like a lot of them. I
think again, like it comes down to there's different types of players, and what I mean by that is, do they want to be doing what they're doing?
Yeah.
Have they wanted to do it initially? Have they been coerced into it a little bit? So sort of like fooled and let on, or have they genuinely want to do it? And the people that are up the top are the ones that genuinely want to do it.
Got you.
There's another people who since a kid they've been dangled again this carrot, like, come here's a lollipop, like come, because they just have this natural ability for this thing. Like the same thing for me. Like I didn't work really to have to do this. I just had a natural ability to be able to do it. And tennis is a big money sport, so it's like people start scratching their heads and going, hold on a second, there's something in this, you know. And then after a time of, you start to wake up as you get older, you're like, hold on, these people have ulterior motives for me. They don't genuinely actually care about me. So let me test their level of genuineness towards me by now acting out, and see how they feel about that. So and again, this isn't really like being able to articulate at the time, but I can clearly see what they're doing, and just basically tanking, not trying, acting out, and just going like, what's the level of these? You start testing their genuineness. And throughout my whole life, that's all I've ever done. I've been like, I don't listen to what people say. Because for me, I've had to be on guard from a very early age to be like, what does this person want from me? Because this is a sport of charlatans, sharks, snakes, snobs, like, who are all gone to this tennis dream. All they've got in their eyes is glory, fame, money, vicarious living. They want to get on this luxurious Kentucky 5-star tour to be able to relive part of their missed youth that, you know, they're unhappy about. And this is a ride of a lifetime. So everyone's looking for the ladder over the other side. These players basically just get ridden like Farlap and then disregarded like a half-eaten sandwich if they go nowhere. And everyone goes, well, that's just the way it is. And it's like, yeah, that's okay, but it's wrong. Like and there's no like protection. These people are just gambling with players' lives from kids, and then they get surprised that kids, you know, turn into young adults and they're still basically babies themselves, because they are babied. Like for me, I was unbelievably privileged. I was unbelievably spoiled. I didn't have to lift a finger outside of tennis because, you know, and not only did I get that, I also got the neglect. So I got both sides of the coin. I got it all. Like I got all the stuff. And, you know, so once they're on the outside of that, these people don't even know how to order a fucking taxi cab. Like I didn't even know how to order something from down the road. Like it was just so overwhelming, because you are just coddled and conditioned, and then basically, or it goes pear-shaped, and then you're looking around being like, so they're all gone. Like, the money's gone, they're all gone. And now it becomes another thing of like, okay, so how do I get a fucking roof over my head now? Like, what? And then it becomes a whole different ball game. You're dodging other bullets then.
Yeah.
So it's not the way that, you know, tennis has a very nice Photoshop front cover. They've done a great job with that, like most places do. You know, add a bit of concealer here, brush this up over here, patch that up over here, don't speak about that over here. And that is for me doing players a massive disservice. Like, just be on it, like, you know. And I think it's important for I can't even speak for other players, but for me, I felt an obligation to speak about this for me, for my own soul, because I got to take a responsibility for my own stuff. Because again, I've written about in the book, I also still coach, because the only thing else I'm fucking qualified to do is flip burgers down the road, and I don't want to do that. So for a long period of time, like, I felt like I was silenced and muzzled from talking about this stuff, because it's like, what player am I going to coach going to want to hear about this? Like, you know what I mean? It's so I had to basically just swallow all this stuff. And that was propelling my drinking. And then I was getting it out to random strangers on the street who basically, you know, hostage taking was a great thing of mine when I was drinking. I'd talk the fucking leg off a chair. And because it was misplaced. It was misplaced. So I got to put it where it belongs, and then hopefully it won't keep me up at 3 a.m. Yeah.
Totally. Where when you look at it sort of with a 360 view, you're almost more qualified than anyone with what you've been through to coach and mentor younger players, because you've got obviously the tennis know-how and that background, but you can actually give them something from a psychological perspective and a mentoring perspective that probably not many can give and not many are willing to. And you can actually help these people and probably, you know, help them have more longevity if they're in it for the right reasons. Because like you're saying, if you're just getting coddled, if you've got yes people around you, if people are trying to just, you know, look at you as a product, make money out of you, no one's going to actually look at, hang on, what does this human actually need to be able to feel okay and make the best decisions?
Well, that's the other thing. That's
you would
what
think,
I thought.
Yeah.
That's what I thought. Again, you're right. And I realized that, like, hold on, no one's more qualified to speak than you. Okay, so I'm not going to scream it from the treetops, but if someone asks, I'm not going to step away from it. And when the instance comes that I see that's fitting for me to say what I need to say, I'll say it. And then you'll be amazed how many people go, well, we don't want to work with that guy.
Yeah.
Because, again, like, the people who are in this are trying to make sure that everything stays in-house, because they're kind of aware of the fact that, like, this is wrong, and they don't want to be accomplices to this, like moral lynching, like, you know what I mean? So against the child, it's like, no, we're good people who are helping our child, and we're pushing little Timmy to go out and play, and it's his choice, and you can do whatever you want, Timmy, but your rackets are in the car, and we're going to go down to the courts for the next 10 years. But it's your choice, you know what I mean? So it's just like, it's bullshit upon bullshit upon bullshit. And then when someone sort of is much more at earth level, it's kind of confronting for the whole thing. So in an ideal world, I would be able to do stuff that you're saying, but unfortunately we're not living in that world. And, you know, there's a price for ignorance, you know, and again, that price is generally paid in the future. And that's what happens to these players, is unfortunately they are the ones that suffer in
Absolutely, yeah. And is that why, you know, you're even saying with your dad, like, you had that incident where he was berating you, and, you know, you hear in tennis so often about these situations where you've got, like, I mean, with what's her name, Jelena Djokovic or whatever her name is. I remember hearing about her dad, that horrible relationship. Is that, again, because you've got this kid who becomes really the moneymaker for the family and the ticket to financial freedom, so everyone's looking at you as like the golden goose that's going to bring that. Is that why because it seems more common in tennis than most other sports?
Yeah, it's just a perfect stomping ground for total extremists, narcissists, and like psychotics, neurotics. It's got everything. This game, it sort of like harbors these people who back their own ability to do something that they know nothing about. And weirdly enough, those people who don't know how to do it actually can do it better than the people who are actually professional at it. Like the best, and this is what I've written about in the book. It's like there's merit in it, because it's like the people who have actually coached the best players are people that don't know how to do it themselves. And it's because, you know, tennis likes to, again, portray itself as being technical and this and difficult and that. And it's like, yeah, for some it is, but for some people just have a natural ability to be able to do it. And then if you get this sort of domineering force, this massive presence that's in this person's corner who's just pushing it and pushing it and pushing it, that that plus that, and no one's going to push the thing quite like a parent. That's the thing, because there's obviously limitations with coaches. It's like,
Yeah.
they just it's just different. So it's kind of amazing how many parents have actually made these just ridiculous players. And again, that's one side of it, and the other side of it is, this game sort of, just once someone becomes initiated into it, they can't help but sort of become.
Are you interested in joining a community of like-minded people who are on the same journey as you are? Even though you're the one that needs to do the work, you don't have to go it alone. You can find all of the information at nickbracks.start.page.
They become infected by it to some degree, because it's like, it's a very natural thing, and it's a very normal thing to kind of want your child to do well. But then there's a real sort of catch in that, where it's like, I've seen it all the time. It doesn't just take these extremists, it takes normal people as well, because they start seeing what everyone else is doing, and we need to be doing this, and now we're investing $300 a week into, someone's tennis, into a person that's 9, and then all of a sudden, it's very difficult for someone to be able to not look for a return on that money. It's just a very natural instinct for someone. If they're investing in something, well, what are we getting in return? So now all of a sudden, we're losing the aspect of the fact that this is actually a person, this is an individual who's also growing. And now we're looking at them as almost a stop.
Yeah, it's so complicated.
Where all of a sudden this boundary, this line, they jump over it, and now the parents doing the coaching, because they're unable to detach themselves from this thing,
because they've invested so much into it. And it's so I guess it's so confusing, because if you're like, how can anyone know at, I don't know how young people start, but like 5 years old, 8 years old, 10 years old, 12 years old, like how the fuck can you know, even if you love the sport at that age, how the hell are you going to know if you want to do this for your life or not? You need to have experience. And you finish school, you have no fucking idea what you want to do still. You have like time exploring things, you make mistakes, you do all this different stuff, and then eventually you sort of start to find, okay, I'm learning about myself or what I want. But if you don't have that time to learn about yourself, even the people that probably think they love it, how do they even know? They haven't been able to explore like all aspects of their actual personality, and look into themselves and find, what do I actually care about? Like, you need time, you need to be free to do that.
Yeah, well, I'm 37 and still trying to figure out what I want to do when I'm grown up. So
yeah,
it's because again, it's sort of like there's an element of intentional deprivation from this parent, not generally, again, I can't speak generally because each instance is different, but it's like, again, I can speak about myself. In my instance, it was like, I had a cousin who was coming over and kicking the football with me. And my mother was there. My father was coming over and work. And I was outside kicking the football. She was inside doing the dishes. Anyway, we're kicking the football, having a great time. Fucking loving it, because I never get to do this stuff. Dad comes in, and then he starts having a go at my mother that she's trying to ruin the dream of my tennis, because like it's getting me away from the Grand Slam plans. It's like this is going to sidetrack him. He's going to become more interested in multiple sports, and then that's going to it's going to affect his desire to be able to want this one thing. So everything's to remain in-house. So outside affiliations with normal things, normal associations, is like normality is seen as the devil, and there's a stigma surrounding it. So that was the last time that I ever saw that cousin, because it was an official bad. But in a way, you can see the method behind the madness in a way, and it's like, also, I love my father. The fact is, I'm not speaking of very highly of some of the stuff that he's done, and it's very difficult to bring context in one conversation about him, but he was an incredible guy as well, like a very, very charismatic character, narcissistic to the fucking eyeballs, brilliant and just maddening at the same time. And that's what made him incredible. And a lot of people in this tennis world actually are like that. They just, that's their strike. But yeah, so anything kind of like socialization with the outside world, anything normal, nice, or is basically no fly zone. We're not going there. We're going this way, and that's what's happening. And anyone that intrudes or steps on that will be outed unless they can reinforce the same message. Then they can be used.
Yeah.
So I've related to it where I had like these arranged marriage, like friendships, where dad would sort of like ID some like other sporting extremists that could step in and be like a friend to me. So I had like these like weird friends who were like 15 years older than me, who were kind of willing to take on my father's message and relay it to me in a different way through like the guise of my friend. And I was like, like it was just really, because I was ahead of my age in terms of playing. So I was hitting with people that were always older. And, my identity was basically brewed by a whole bunch of these weird relationships. So I was just this oddball character that people would just kind of be like, what the fuck is that guy's deal? And I kind of still have that same thing where it's like, what's that guy's story? And yeah, it's been very difficult to sort of, like I'm saying, just come into something that's normal.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
And what's your relationship with your parents been like post tennis?
It's just been, everyone sort of reacted to this. The end of it was sort of like a death in the family, is the best way to put it, where it's like each person sort of reacts differently to it, because again, it wasn't just me that was under these demands. Like when there's a tornado around, like everyone, depending on where you are, everyone feels the effects of it. So a lot of people held a lot of resentment. Some people were annoyed. Some people just didn't want it to happen. Yeah, it's been that was very weird in itself. Was just and rightfully so, because everyone was affected by this. It didn't just affect me. Everyone rode the ship to a degree, so they're entitled to their own reaction to it. It's weird being the person being in the eye of the storm and feeling this sense of remorse and regret, not really towards yourself, but towards the way that other people were treated because of this tennis tornado.
It's very complicated, and would be a bizarre mix of emotions where it's it's your own life and your own choices, but then you're able to deal with that part of it, but then you're sort of having all of the complication with the effect on everyone else. It'd be very confusing. And again, like you just said, it was my own life choices. Again, I would argue that it wasn't my choice. So you didn't get, it should have been, but it's not.
And while I was looking at it like that, that's when I was very unwell, because then the sole responsibility of this is on my shoulders, and I'm like, oh fuck, like that, and it felt wrong. It felt wrong. It felt like the crime, the punishment didn't fit the crime, sort of thing. And the more and more that I can see is that, and people love people in Australia, because I've done a few of these videos and they love going, oh, this is this guy not taking responsibility for it. Perfect guy, had all the opportunity in the world and he's trying to fuck it. And I'm like, no, I'm not. That's all horseshit as well. It's like just looking for something that, it's just looking at something for what it is. And actually also my father was this person that was also obsessed. He was taken by obsessions. He was powerless over it. Like I was powerless over alcohol. Same thing. It's like he was addicted to tennis. It was his god. And you become what you worship. And tennis is an almighty tyrant. I could see that with him in multiple things that he did. He owned racehorses and he just became immersed in things. Yeah. And he, given his background in that and his trauma and that stuff, it's like he was powerless over that to some degree. So it's like, it's not like, people love sort of making this stuff out like it's very black and white, but it's taken me a long time to be able to see it through somewhat clear eyes, to be able to go, you know what? It was just kind of fucked. Yeah. And and that's that. So sort of just if I can leave it where it lies, and be able to reconcile and move on in the best way I can. That's it. Yeah.
Absolutely, mate. Is there any regret about the decision to? Do you ever look back and think, "Fuck, I wonder what would have happened if I just gritted my teeth and tried to make it work"? Or do you have any regret, or you happy with the choice?
Again, when I looked at it like I had a choice, I think choice is a thing that for me, if I look at my life, I don't look at it like I've had choices or there was. That's not an accurate assessment of life.
Interesting.
I think when you put a human being into an unbearable predicament, calling that a choice is inaccurate. No, I don't. I did look at it like that, and again, it's what made me very unwell. But again, if I have to look at that genuinely and honestly, I was in a state of just complete unbearability. So for me, no, the only thing I would have regretted if there would have been any word is trying to get out of it earlier. Because for me, the tennis wasn't healthy. It just wasn't healthy. Alcoholism was far more healthier for me than tennis was.
Wow.
It was yeah, and actually, I was doing the right thing in the wrong way. You can clearly see now as well. So, no, I don't have any regret around that, which is great, really, because fuck walking around with that stuff.
Oh, 100%, mate. It's great you can. And, as you're talking about now, obviously the level of knowledge you have, the insight you have, what you've clearly had to, you've had to look so far deep into yourself, you've had to assess things, and what you can personally give to the world now through that experience is huge. You can speak from these experiences, you can educate other people, you can make genuine change in people's lives through all of that experience. So, a lot of meaning comes out of everything when you sort of look back on it holistically. So I guess, next question is, what, when you did leave, you said you sort of had the whole period of depression, alcoholism, trying to keep a roof over your head. So what were you actually doing for all of those years, and what is the path you're sort of looking at going down now?
Well, again, given the state of where I was, I didn't have the mental capacity. Or again, I was pulled out of school from year 8. I did homeschool and barely call it that because I was over the other side of the world. So I was never really schooled. Doing year 12 and going to university and college, given the state of where I was in, again, it wasn't even a thought. Like I was, any job that I had, I was hired and fired. If not on the day, give me a couple of days and I'll make sure I'll burn to the ground. I could get jobs, I couldn't keep them. So I couldn't keep them, and I still have that issue. So tennis coaching was, again, it's like going back to an ex-girlfriend who had cheated on you like multiple times. That's how it felt. I just felt like this fucking escort or something who was just like pimping himself out just for a couple of measly bucks so I could just keep drinking to forget. It was this horrible cycle of just, and then sort of lying through my teeth, not lying through my teeth, but just again, like, not giving the full story, just telling the bumper sticker versions of this shit and just letting people come to their own, conclusion when the tennis door hits them on the way, on the arse on the way out. It felt wrong, and I felt like a fraud. And I've written about it in the introduction of my book. It was kind of what was keeping me the sickest. I hated the word coach. Coach, to me, the title epitomed the title of like failed tennis player. I choke on the word coach, like it disgusts me. And so, yeah, I coached throughout that time. I did whatever I could do to basically just keep, a fistful of 50s coming in my hand. So I'd basically be able to go down to the pub and forget about, a large portion of my life, and actually to try to enjoy it and just do whatever I wanted. Again, like I'm saying, that freedom, like it wasn't all miserable. It's like that Taylor Swift lyric. What is it, like miserable and like great at the same time? So it wasn't like all this misery and dark. Like a lot of it was, and especially towards the tail end of it, yeah. And the difficult part for me was I was towards the end of my drinking. I just felt hopeless, like just totally and utterly hopeless and pathetic. And it was unanimous. It was like, I thought I was a type of person, and because basically when I drink, I become a different person. And I like who I become when I drink. I actually become jealous when I'm sober of who I am when I'm drunk. It's weird being sort of envious of yourself. And then I realized, that it's just all a sham. It's just all just been performing this whole time, just been acting. And I'm just the biggest bluff that there sort of is. And couldn't just saw life the way it was, and that was a difficult pill to swallow. And then from there, my life has really changed. Thankful to, again, a lot of happenstance, a lot of weird coincidental stuff that I'm lucky to have found. And now again, I'm still sort of tennis coaching because trying to get out of it. I've written this book. Large portion of my 5 years has been going to writing this book. I have a young son who's 3.5. Obligations, and again, I'm actually still looking for a place to basically find where to live. It hasn't been very easy for me to be able to come back into this life, and I'm looking for things to be able to do. I've written a TV show that I'm trying to get happening. And yeah, that's sort of what I do with my time.
Yeah, well, I think it's an amazing story, mate, that you've come through all of that, and you still, and we're all, I think everyone in some ways always trying to find a way to pave, forward in the future. And I think, yeah, there's so many angles you can come from, but I think the most powerful thing is the fact you're just talking about this and sharing it, because it really does. I've been speaking about my own journey and working in the mental health space for 15 years, and every time I'll hear from people that come out of the woodworks, got help, heard a message that you'd never think they needed to hear, and you just never know who the hell is going to hear this stuff. So it really does help, and yeah, I think that's super positive. And you're sober now. You're saying you got out of the...
I've been sober. Yeah, I've been sober for 5 years.
Amazing.
And it's been a grace. Basically, someone showed some mercy upon me, really, and thankfully, again, it's not by any of my doing. I don't feel, which is difficult because my ego wants to take credit for a lot of things. But really, if I have to look at it, it was sort of, I'm very lucky. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, yeah, no, I can totally relate where, I had similar thing. Alcohol was how I coped, and I would become a different person. It was liberating, and I would take it to the, as far as I could. And I got to a point where a few years back, like I wasn't drinking much, but I would still, if I did drink, I could easily take it to the extreme. And I thought, at this age, I don't need this in my life anymore. And, I quit a couple of years back, and it's been the best decision I've ever made. Like, cause it just, dealing with the ups and downs of it, and the anxiety that comes post drinking, and, all of it, it is a relief to, it's obviously a lot of fun, but it's sort of manufactured fun, it's not like, and it's
That's
only...
why I put it, it's like, I've got a son who's like 4 years old, and he loves building these like building blocks. He loves building stuff with Lego, and he really enjoys that. But you know what he enjoys more than that? He enjoys tearing it down to bits. He enjoys smashing and obliterating this little fucking toy set to bits. You see this look in his eye, and I can see myself in him. I'm like, that's me. I enjoy taking myself to pieces and just destroying this thing. That was my self-care plan. Was doing that. Was just really obliterating myself. And again, if I look back, like, I was applauded and given love for basically brutalizing myself as a child. And so it fits. It's like, and then when I perform and I come on here and I do this and I do that, it's like that's all for me. It's like, isn't this what I'm supposed to be doing? Like, and little do I know, it's like in the in normal world, like, people just want to love you and you to love them. And I'm out fucking brutalizing myself, being like, why isn't everyone loving this shit? Like, so it's been very confusing to me of like, oh no, they just sort of want you home at 6 p.m. And
has that made it hard for relationships for you?
Yeah, it's I don't. It's like yeah, it's the biggest thing for me is the issues with STEM is with relationships. Yeah, I just don't get it. I just don't get it. It's like, uh, I don't know how else to say it but that. It's just for me, it's like I fundamentally do not understand how to do them and what actually makes them work because I'm so wired in a different way. And then the intimacy of, like I always had to be very careful of like how close I had to get to people. Because human beings are dynamic creatures, especially the ones that I was around. Like you have to be on guard and keep it, as they say in fighting, keep your hands up at all times. So being able to sort of drop that and, I just feel sort of weak, weird, and like I'm sort of just bringing suffering on unnecessary people that don't really need or want that in their life. Because like we were saying before, so if you're around someone who's constantly dissatisfied, like who wants to be around that? Like, yeah, that's good for your job and your whatever it is, but bring a level of dissatisfaction into a relationship. And again, for me, like perfectionism was a real thing in tennis. Like judging people on the way that their physicality is seen as like, it's normal procedure in tennis. Like, this person's this or this person's that. And, might too scrutinized, thinking that people should be on my level, like just
yeah,
way fucking too much, man. Like, and to be in an unconditional, relationship, like for me, I'm like, well, isn't everything conditional? I thought that, I've been treated like that, and then so for me, it's just there's so many mixed wires that it's like. And then becomes again like I've got normal life to live, I've got bills to pay, I've got things to do, and then on top of that, like how much therapy can one fucking man do? And it's like even that in itself like annoys the shit out of me. Like, what you want me to just basically work a job that I'm not necessarily sold on, and then just live in therapy and become this like new age guy? I think there's enough of them around. Maybe you should just go and find him.
Yeah. No, it's complicated. It's complicated.
Yeah.
It's fucking like a lot of levels to it, mate. But it totally makes sense in a simplistic level what you're saying with probably innately not trusting people because you've been conditioned on that conditional framework of if I perform well, then people will stand by me, etc. But if I want to be in a relationship and be with someone who just behind the scenes wants to be with me, just for me, nothing else.
Hey guys, if you're enjoying this podcast, please click the subscribe button, leave a like or comment, share with your friends, and follow me on Instagram at nickbracks. I really appreciate your ongoing support.
So anyway, we finished with 5 closing questions. These can be sort of, whatever comes to mind. First one being, what is your best childhood memory that comes to mind for you? Great one to start with after what we've talked about.
Well, yeah. What? Okay. I'll tell you this, right? My dad came home from the balaclava races with wine stain. Wherever you come, whenever you see the wine stain teeth, you knew that it was time to hit the hay. And he came home from the races. I don't know why it's popped into my mind, so I'll say it. But anyway, I remember, so he was hammered, and he came out, and I remember he took me out the front of the house, and I don't know why, but he was telling me that it had been genetically proven that I was like some sort of like scientific sporting freak, like they'd done tests, and it was almost like confirmation because I always sort of felt like an alien. I felt weird wherever I went, and in a way, him telling me that kind of made me feel like when you're an alien and someone comes and tell you that you are an alien, it's actually a relief. So I was like, oh, like there's actually that makes sense. Now, I don't know what he was on about, but, and I don't know why I thought of that, but I'd say that. Yeah.
Interesting, mate. Well, thank you for sharing it. What do you think is currently the biggest burden on mental health in society?
That's a good question. I'd say the deeper the issue you have, the less there is anyone to talk to. I think that there's men get barked at in society by people that they should open up and talk. And the irony of that is that a lot of the people that do the barking that these men should open up and talk are actually shocking conversationalists themselves. They ask boring questions, they give rehearsed answers, and don't really know when the time is just to basically let someone talk. So I think that's very misleading. And also the fact that, that all issues aren't treated equally. If your issues mix in with today's trending hashtags of depression, anxiety, such and such, but if you speak to someone about your sex addiction, you watch The Room, shut up then. So so that's what I'm saying. If you've got fashionable problems, you'll kind of be okay. But if you've got deep problems and you've got some things that, are a little bit unsavory for the common ears, where do you go with that? What do you do? I think, also the fact that now, mental health and that sort of stuff is sort of, in a way, it's being made fashionable and entertainment.
Yeah.
And that's a real problem. So I think there's some sacredness and some what do you do? I mean, no one really knows what to do with certain stuff. They don't know where to go. So it's a difficult problem. Yeah.
Totally agree. No, it is. It's so complicated, and it's gone. Like, I agree with everything you're saying there, and it's gone so far where it used to not be talked about enough. Now it's talked about a lot, great, but then it is glamorized where people might wear it with a badge of honor, talking about their anxiety or whatever it is, and it's so complicated because some people genuinely need the help. Some people, it might be that they just think that it's a trendy thing to talk about, but then there comes the part of like resilience and actually learning how to take actions to deal with things. And if that's not there, because it's just like, oh no, we're going to just coddle each other with our problems, it's like, well, how do we fix it though? What do we do? Who's there telling us the actual fucking thing?
It's like you've kind of got like David Goggins or like this other like bunch of sympathetic empathizers who are all too ready to say and nod their heads and sort of seem new age. And that's a real issue. So it's like there's no, and men really, they don't want to come across as weak and they don't want to be pitied. So there's no real space for someone to be able to come out and be genuine without sort of feeling like a wimp in the process. And, even though they're not meaning it maliciously, this sort of sympathy that you can give someone when you're going like, you need to be people aren't very well versed in how this sort of stuff works. I've come from the recovery world, so I see how people actually get better. They come back from these basically life-threatening illnesses, and you'd be amazed at the recovery that these people can get. And a lot of it has to do with the way that the thing is actually set up, where if you just let human beings interact with each other, they'll basically fuck it up. Like you kind of got to go back to almost like year 2, where it's like, okay, you talk, now you talk, now you talk. And because even someone saying something like nodding or this is a very sensitive subject. Like you're asking someone to open up and speak about certain stuff. If you just a little bit of a tone there, you know what I mean? It's not. You can be meaning things. It could be well-meaning, but at the same time, if you just put a little bit of too much on something, people are going, no, I'm not doing that.
Absolutely, 100%. No, and
it's delicate.
Yeah, and we need that structure. And I've got a friend who has had so many problems or so many different professionals, but the thing that really ended up helping him was being in a group. It was for sex addiction and alcoholism and all sorts of things. And being in that men's group, the 12-step program, he's still in it now, and it changed his life. Like it saved him. So because of that structure, that's it. So important. Yeah, so important. What would you say is your personal definition of happiness?
Oh, geez. I'd say now this will change by this afternoon. I'd say not feeling like when I'm on my own, that I feel like I'm a fucking empty ghost. Like I just feel like I feel like I don't exist, and I have this hole within my soul that's like aching.
Yeah.
I'm a loner who doesn't enjoy his own company, and I feel tormented by non-specific things that everything in my life is pretty good, but internally there's something going on, and I'm really annoyed by the fact that that's my living reality, and that I need to be around people and I need to do this. If I could just feel some contentment within myself, I believe that would equate to happiness. Because when I drank, I felt okay. I felt okay.
Yeah, it sort of turns your brain off for those periods where you feel that freedom. It just can't be sustained. So it's exactly.
I didn't need to. I just felt okay within my own skin.
Yeah.
And when you kind of feel okay within your own skin, basically whatever happened to me, I'll be all right.
Exactly.
So yeah, that's how I would define it as for this moment. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. If you could give one piece of advice to your 18-year-old self, what would that be?
Well, my 18-year-old self wouldn't have listened anyway. He basically was like this. So it's a great question, but that fucking 18-year-old idiot, I won't say idiot, but in a way, I can understand the thing where it's like, no advice. Like, don't watch who you're taking advice from. Like, stop. Almost, again, what has helped me and brought me back to life is being in a room, getting in contact with something that's a little bit greater than myself, and understanding really in a way that no one else can really give me anything. No one else has the correct method or right way to be able to prescribe me anything. And I've come to see that there's something within me that knows more than I do. It's like I don't watch myself. It's like it watches me. And if I can somehow tune into that thing, that's better for me to be guided by that.
Totally.
I don't know what else you can. I've taken advice and listened to people and told, and for me, none of it's really worked. And again, for me, I've got to bring reference to that because I've been overcoached, like I said, for 15 years, just told what to do. So there's a big part of that to anyone that says anything. So that's why my thing with advice is like a lot of help. Like people just go, I'm just trying to help. And it's like a lot of your help is just egotistical, like narcissism that you're trying to sit at and project at me from this high chair, like what's right for me, and what you think is right for me has been completely wrong. So maybe I've got to listen to myself.
Makes a lot. No, I think it's really well put, and that it's again why we need we need to be educated. We need to become more self-aware because like people are projecting onto other people what worked for them, maybe, or what they thought worked for them, or all they're doing is talking through this narrow lens of their own worldview and expecting everyone else to operate from that. It's like it's not going to work. Yeah,
it's not going to work. Yeah.
Final one. What are you most proud of?
Pride's an interesting thing, isn't it? I was saying this the other day. It's weird being proud of something that you wanted to do. Like, I'm very blessed to have a son, and to tell you the truth, I'm a really good parent. I'm shocking at a lot of things, and I'm really good at some things. But I am a good parent, and oh man, yeah, like children don't get asked to be brought into this world. They kind of come into it being like, hook me up, man. And I see a lot of questionable parenting, and I've experienced some myself. So I think I'm hoping that for me, when I look back on my life, the most thing that I will be proud of will be the fact that I'm a decent father, and But in saying all that, it's crazy how life goes with how kids turn out. Like, there's no, you can discipline one kid, it goes one way. You can leave kid, unsupervised and sort of like free, and it's so. But for me, I think parenting for me is just because it's just such a responsibility. It's like they haven't asked for this,
Yeah.
you know. So that's one I don't want to fuck up. It's one I don't want to fuck up. Yeah.
Totally, mate. Well, thank you again for being so open and everything you're doing, and we'll have to stay in touch. And yeah, appreciate it, mate. I know our listeners, got a predominantly male audience. I know they'll actually take a huge amount out of what you've talked about here. They'll relate to a lot of it. So thank you for sharing it, and keep doing what you're doing.
Cool. Thanks very much for your time. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Todd Ley, for joining me today and offering your insights. And thank you for listening. I'd love to hear your thoughts on the episode and any suggestions of topics you'd like to hear about. Feel free to leave a comment or just send a DM. Your feedback's always appreciated. Please don't forget to click the subscribe button, leave a like or comment, share with your friends, and follow me on Instagram. It really makes a difference. Thank you so much.